Today I played a long stall game versus a flying team and I thought it deserved an analysis. I changed the template from last time to only show the game and subtitles of me talking. You can view the movesets of my team, Gaystall Alliance version 1, in the description if you want a better idea of how my team works. Enjoy. Alright, let's get into it. So I end up leading with Greninja here because I'm hoping for some sort of lucky Ice Beam or for them to lead with something fucking stupid like Zapdos, which would potentially get me a kill with Ice Beam, depending on the EVs of their Corviknight. But it turns out their Corviknight is specially defensive, so Ice Beam will be a 3-hit KO, which will fuck me up. As you may know, Corviknight has pressure, which means that Ice Beam effectively will only have 8 PP against it, which is heavily risky, so I'm going to be very stingy with how I use my Ice Beams. So I sent in my Alomomola here because it's generally a good idea to pivot around with Alomomola. It's a very safe option. There's nothing on their team that can kill my Alomomola instantly. I went back into Greninja hoping for some random hits, but it was actually just a fake out. Now I'm going to Toxapex because Toxapex is a good option to waste Gliscor's PP. As you may know, Gliscor is very effective against any other member of my team, ironically, except for Dondozo, but there is a risk of Dondozo getting their boots knocked off, and thereby having hazards stacked up on them the entire game. But it turns out their Gliscor does not have knockoff, otherwise they would have used it here. So I'm just spamming Scald with my Alomomola, hoping to take out the Skarmory, but I suppose they don't really care about that much, since Skarmory has already done its job with the spikes. I clearly don't have any hazard remover on my team, but they also don't know that I have boots on my entire team besides Greninja, which is fine within this matchup because it's not very difficult for me to Wish Pass from Alomomola onto Greninja, which would restore their full health. So they're sending in Zapdos here. I'm really concerned by it because depending on the set, Zapdos can be scary. However, it turns out they're running a weird-ass Zapdos set with Light Screen, and I'm passing Corviknight. No fucking idea why. It's not even a set-up Corviknight set, so I don't know what they're, like, afraid of, besides me switching into Greninja, which wouldn't make sense in the first place here. So they're sending in Gliscor, again, because Gliscor is very threatening to my team, especially Alomomola. They're going for a Toxic. A Toxic would be very effective against Alomomola in their mind because it stops me from just staying out and wasting their PP. So they use Earthquake, but they are not invested in attack. Fuck, sorry. And I just risked a crit there, which potentially lost me the game. Because, like, it would have done 60 on a crit. It's enough to kill my Toxapex because I'm fucking stupid. So now they're sending in their Gyarados. I don't know what set is. I used Toxic hoping maybe that kills it, but it probably won't considering their Dragon Tail, so they're probably a defensive set. Which makes sense considering 6 of their Pokemon on the entire fucking team are defensive. So, I know their Gyarados can't really do shit to my entire team. Maybe they have Thunder Wave, but I don't really care about Thunder Wave against anyone besides Empoleon, because Thunder Wave can, you know, prevent me from being toxic by that there Gliscor. So I use Flash Can, not sure why. I guess I was just hoping Enamorus would stay in for some fucking reason. I don't know why they switched in Enamorus in the first place, considering it's just gonna get chipped by rocks. Enamorus has no way of recovering, so Enamorus is basically on a timer this entire game, as long as rocks continue to be up. So again, just wasting Gyarados PP. I don't even know why they have Gyarados in. I guess they know that I can't do shit while Gyarados is out besides PP stall, and they want a long game for some reason. But I don't mind that. I always want a long game. So here what you're going to see is they're going to Dragon Tail, and that's going to lead into Greninja being chipped by all those hazards, which is very dangerous for me, because effectively, 2 hits from those hazards and Greninja is gone. It's a 3-hit KO, but the next time I switch into Greninja, it would be dead. And hazards take effect before Wish Passing, so I have to pass to Greninja while Wish is still active. So lucky there, they Dragon Tailed my Toxapex, and that effectively passed the Wish to my Greninja, which I was hoping for, even though it's just a 1 in 5 chance to fully heal my Greninja. Back to Gyarados again. Not sure why. I know that Gyarados is going to live a long time, so there's not even much point in damaging the Gyarados. In fact, Once the Gyarados uses rest, something I'm trying to do is not attack it anymore, because getting them down to 89 or something, that will allow them to use rest again. Whereas if they stay at 100, they cannot use rest again, and will thereby not be good at PP sawing. So I go back into Toxapex, hoping to use Chilling Water just in case they use Earthquake against me. However, I wasted it, used it on Gyarados, and that ain't doing shit, quite frankly. They're going to continue using Dragon Tail, hoping to get my Greninja out. I'm realizing now that my Greninja is probably a non-factor, because they have multiple ways of stopping it unless I get some bullshit freeze, which I probably won't. Even if I did, they would just switch to Gyarados after their Corv got frozen, or vice versa. But, you know, for some reason I still care about keeping him alive, so I'll be wish passing to Greninja whenever he gets low.
Polyamory is a concept in which one individual has more than one romantic and/or sexual partner. This tutorial will heavily focus on sexuality, but the dynamics I'm talking about would probably become even more weirder / more problematic without sexuality, which is ironically freaky. People pitch polyamory as fantastical and guaranteeing an equitable system of whimsy and horniness with love on the side. Importantly, for an alternative lifestyle, polyamory is proposed as an idea and concept of monogamy. This is partially achieved through terms like I'm so sorry. Okay. Monogonormativity. Additionally, polyamory is established as a viable alternative by highlighting the flaws of monogamous relationships. There is a philosophical fallacy for this that I don't know the name of. Monogamous relationships are restrictive with their rigid rules. This will create a negative experience for people who think they're capable of loving two people near equally at the same time. In other words, monogonormativity denies an ideal lifestyle for many people. Polyamory is often idealized for this quality of spreading love instead of restricting it. This concept comes with the fantasy that partners will be treated with equal kindness and relatively equal time. Accordingly, their fantasy states that there will not be a disproportionate attraction to one partner in a polyamorous relationship to the point where someone feels left out. There are multiple forms of a polyamorous relationship which can make the concept seem confusing or overwhelming to people. Here's a list of some of the common ones. The lovely little triangle, where everyone is dating each other. A throuple, if you will. Awesome word, by the way. The semi-solid triangle where one partner is dating two different people that are not attracted to each other. In other words, one partner is polyamorous while the other essentially just has their partner's time split between them and someone they don't love. My narrator, who is currently reading the sentence, told me, the writer, that this concept is called a poly-V. An especially problematic dynamic that I'll get into later, where dynamics are based around sexuality and gender, particularly when women in a hetero-primary relationship are allowed to be polyamorous / get freaky with other women but not men. As it may be clear, the variance in dynamics is reflective of a different set of rules for polyamorous relationships. There is one particular example of a new set of rules in a polyamorous relationship that demonstrates one of the worst ways polyamory can go, a relationship dynamic where a polyamorous relationship begins when a straight man and a bisexual / pansexual woman. The relationship is opened for the man in the relationship to pursue romance or hookups with women. As for the woman, there is a dynamic where they are only allowed to date or hook up with other women, but not men. This is done doubly out of jealousy and an undermining of sapphic relationships. Hooking up with a man is emasculating for your partner, but women aren't given the same consideration. This gives the same common perception of bisexual women as promiscuous. In their article on bisexual exclusion and WLW relationships, C. Spiller writes about the reasons for bi stereotyping. Quote, "This comes doubly from the male gaze fetishizing bisexual women, as well as heteronormativity. Validating heterosexual relationships as superior to queer relationships is a mechanism that heteronormative society uses to justify itself. For women who are in monogamous, straight relationships, this means that their relationship will be viewed the same way as most heterosexual relationships." End quote. Very well-written article. To no surprise of bisexual people, this stereotype seems evergreen. But thankfully, even evergreen trees can die if they aren't healthy. Misogyny and homophobia aren't healthy. Even in a relationship where all parties claim to be happy, there will frequently be a serious disrespect to the sexuality of queer women. One which treats their capacity for love as fundamentally frivolous. This is kind of like how the Monotype Tiering Council ranked Alomomola as a D tier despite You want me to say it like that? You want me to say it 3 times in a row? I don't know if I can do that.
No, don't say it 3 times in a row.
Well...
Also, if you mess it up once, do it again, and I'll just include that.
I'm just going to say Alomomola. Is that okay?
No.
No? Alomomola?
Yeah. And if you mess it up for one of them, just redo it and say Alomomola.
This is kind of like how the Monotype Tiering Council ranked Alomomola as a D tier despite Alomomola carrying Stall single-handedly, so it would be nothing without Alomomola and Toxapex. The reason I bring the dating scenario up is to highlight the risks of pursuing new relationship dynamics without understanding the implications. Perhaps other problematic dynamics will be discussed with no forewarning in other stall videos. This isn't used to undermine monogamous relationships because those have undoubtedly shown failures as well, especially broken marriages and how they turn Pokemon players into stall players.
Oh, so I made a dumbass move there. Discharge crit killed me. I didn't do the calc of seeing if discharge would do anything to me, because I was just like so desperate to get a hit in on that Zapdos. Thank Josh that it just came with a crit that didn't kill me. But now they've revealed some Zapdos antics. I'm not that scared though, because I know that 15 Hurricane PP on a defensive Zapdos probably isn't enough to kill my Gastrodon. So I'll probably just have to be PP stalling that out for the rest of the game, and then maybe I can get a tie. But my Gyarados being down to 4 PP, not exactly the most concerning, because I can just wish pass to it with a Alomomola whenever they give me a chance, and then he'll be back to healthy. The only concern with wish passing there is I can't wish pass, probably, when they have a, Gliscor out, because Gliscor has a 50-50 on either Toxicking my Alomomola or Earthquaking and killing my fucking Dondozo if I switch out without Flip Turn. But, of course, I switch out with Flip Turn, I'm risking a Toxic. So it's probably going to be a fairly long time before I Wish Pass. But I'm not the most scared about that because I don't really need Dondozo immediately for anything. Of course, he's nice to have as a backup for Gliscor in case my Toxapex gets chipped to the point where I don't want to take Earthquakes. Oh shit, and they finally got that Toxic in on my Alomomola. But it was worth the cost in my mind because I was desperate to get that Wish Pass, that 50-50 as I was describing earlier. I decided to take it, even if it means getting my Alomomola Toxic. Which will have the consequence here of Zapdos fucking up my Alomomola and having my Alomomola being less of a safeguard against Zapdos Discharge. But I suppose I was fine with that because I really wanted to have another safeguard on my team, that being Dondozo. I know now for a fact that Dondozo can take a crit discharge from Zapdos, so just in case my Gastrodon gets very low, I can just allow one extra hit to buy myself some time. But if I'm just sending in my Alomomola for a few turns, it's fine because toxic damage certainly is not outweighing how much I get from Regenerator, which is 33%. So now they're whirlwinding a Skarmory. That's kind of dangerous. It's gonna kill my Greninja probably. But I also haven't used my Greninja in at least 80 turns, so I don't particularly care about him. Yup, Greninja is in there, and he's dead now. He's at 24%. However, hazards do about 34% to him, so there's nothing I can do. My only usage for Greninja now is providing one switch in to waste a turn of them, which would only be effective basically against Zapdos, or maybe, just maybe, an Amorous, but probably not. That also means that their Skarmory ain't doing shit here. However, there is one benefit of keeping my Greninja alive, that being that when my Greninja dies, they will be able to use Defog as Corviknight, which they probably have. And what that means is there's no hazards on both sides because they don't care as much about there being hazards on my side. All 5 of the remaining Pokemon would have boots, and they have no knockoff. However, on their side, not all of them have boots, so they desperately want to get rid of those Stealth Rocks, namely for Enamorus, who would then have a free switch in. And Enamorus is still flimsy, culpable to attacks from any of my 5 remaining Pokemon besides Gastrodon. Yup, and there it is, Greninja is now dead. So they sent in Corviknight, you know what it is, be aware they use Defog. That's pretty dangerous to me because I don't have the most opportunities to switch in Empoleon to use Stealth Rocks. Even if I do, Empoleon is just going to get switched into Corviknight, who has Pressure and Defog. And what that means is I have less Stealth Rocks PP, I have 16 Stealth Rocks PP, compared to their current 23 Defogs, which is never going to work in my favor, clearly. So now it's just a switch fest. They got a lucky discharge, or I guess me being a dumbass discharge, against my Alomomola. But that's not the most effective because my Alomomola is now back up to 73, which is enough to take another non-crit discharge, or even a crit Hurricane, likely. They're using light screen, I suppose, probably to fake me out. I'm going to read an excerpt from American Narcissist by Chandler Morrison because I think it's a rich and fulfilling story. I get so exhausted with all the wealth in this town. Lucy was telling Rylan. She stood before her full-length mirror in her bra and panties, teasing her hair, examining her face. They were in her place for once. Kyle was in Vegas performing at some sort of charity event for which he was being paid handsomely. Rylan reclined on his bed in his underwear, watching Lucy, listening to her. He listened to her a lot over the past few days, having spent Friday night and all of Saturday with her. It was now Sunday morning, he was out of coke, and he was exhausted. This whole city is a tribute to capitalism, Lucy went on. It fetishizes in the grossest of ways. I get so sick of it. Kyle and I are going to this party in Calabasas when he gets back tomorrow, and I'm dreading it. All the parties, all the drugs. Everyone with their fancy cars and their designer clothes and their gaudy jewelry. It's disgusting. I grew up with basically nothing. Both of my parents are drug addicts. I never imagined I'd be where I am, and sometimes I think I was better off poor. I wish the communist revolution would hurry up and get here already. I hope it comes to LA first. Rylan breathed in, bit his tongue. He tried to focus on Lucy's exquisite beauty, the smooth, proportional perfection of the shape of her. The way she made him laugh, the way she made him come. The compliments with which she lathered him. How safe he felt when she ran her fingers through his hair. She was a kid, he reasoned. She'd grow out of her ridiculous ideology. It wasn't worth a confrontation. Lucy turned away from the mirror, facing him. She put her hand on her hip and studied him, her fingers drumming against the fridge along the hem of her panties. "Don't you get sick of it?" she asked. A cruel malice flickered in her eyes. The grin she wore had bloodlust in it. I mean, you're technically the worst kind of rich person. You're not creating anything. You're a corporate prostitute. You whore yourself out to big business, and you don't care that you're being used as a chess piece, as long as they keep stuffing your bank account with the ill-gotten spoils of their sick game. Rylan shut his eyes. "Lucy," he said, controlling his breathing, measuring his tone. "Why are you doing this?" Her evil smile could have cut through glass. "Doing what, darling? What is it that I'm doing?" "Why are you picking a fight with me? We've been having such a nice weekend." She laughed her frayed hyena's cackle. "Oh, have we? That's news to me. You think I don't notice how distant you've been? You think I don't know what it is? It's guys like you. You all have this thing. It's this thing that makes you incapable of staying satisfied. You're so used to getting new things, shinier things, so you get bored too easily. You're getting bored of me." Despite his efforts to remain calm, Rylan could feel his blood pressure rising, his pulse chugging in his temples. "Lucy, this is ridiculous. I'm not bored of you. I think the way you romanticize communism is a little immature and it can be irritating, but that doesn't mean..." "Oh, I'm immature? That's good. That's hilarious. Enlighten me, Daddy. Tell me about all the ways I need to grow up. It's not all the ways, it's just, look, you're very mature, but the whole capitalism is evil thing is where your age betrays you a bit. It's naive, that's all. Oh god, if only you could hear what a condescending prick you sound like right now. Rylan massaged his eyes with his thumb and middle finger. Christ, Lise, let's not argue about this. Too late, boss man. You opened the door, now come on through. Tell me all about how naive I am, Mr. Corporate Executive. Maybe it was the petulant way she called him boss man. Maybe it was the goading wickedness in her eyes and in her smile. Maybe it was his faint hangover or the nagging coke withdrawals. Something in Rylan snapped. He leaned forward on the bed, gritting his teeth and narrowing his eyes and balling his hands into fists, and he unleashed. You kids, he snarled, a little taken back by his own savagery. You all talk about communism like it's some merry fucking carnival, but it's not. It's desolation and depression, and it's the eradication of everything you love. All this stuff you have, your clothes, your accessories, your jewelry, all of it. You think you get that in a communist state? Is that honestly what you think? How about all your streaming services with your stupid Japanese cartoons? Which, I'm sorry, but tell me how it is that you can tolerate subtitles when you're watching 9 straight hours of pastel-colored kids shows about magical 8th graders with gigantic breasts and dead parents. But you can't stomach 100 minutes of Kurosawa? Never mind, don't fucking answer that. His eyes fell upon her bookshelf as he rubbed his aching bicep, his chest heaving. And that Eastridge guy you get off on, you think a guy like him would even exist if it weren't for capitalism? Do you think he'd even fucking bother? Or your phone that you're always on. You can thank capitalism for that one too, baby doll. He spread his arms out, wincing at the pain in his left one. Everything in this goddamn room, everything in your life, it's all from capitalism. You don't know what you're saying when you talk about communism. You're parroting the juvenile blowhards your age who think they have all the answers. Honey, sweetheart, you think you want communism? That I believe. You think you want it, but you don't. You just want free shit. Lisi could have been a statue. Her regal poise as she stood still, eyes unblinking, the marble quality of her skin that, for all its yielding softness, appeared hard. Impenetrable, Rylan had the absurd urge to take a picture of her. Even as he steeled himself for her inevitable outburst, she was still the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. The outburst didn't come, not at first, and not in the way he was expecting. After staring him down like an opponent in a duel, she bit her lip and nodded. Her fingers moved a lock of hair from her face. You think I care? You think I care? She said in an almost whisper. You think I care about this stuff? You think I care about any of it? This is... She nodded, again, as if realizing something. This is funny to me. The calm in her voice was unsettling. A distant shape lying across the path. It could have been a branch, it could have been a snake. Rylan wished she'd start yelling. She pivoted on her heel and strided into her walk-in closet. A rustling, and then a pair of Prada shoes came falling out, landing on the carpet in front of the bed. They were followed by several more shoes, a number of dresses, some purses, a pair of jeans, a handful of blouses, some more purses, still more shoes, all designer. Lisi exited the closet, and then the bedroom. When she returned, she had a long, curved chef's knife in her hand. She's gonna kill me, Rylan decided, surprised at how readily he accepted his fate. He felt no panic. What he did feel wasn't quite relief, but it was close. Instead of killing him, Lisi got on her knees and began hacking the clothes apart. Fabric shredded like flesh. Some straps came untethered, their bases sawed in half. The dresses fell to ribbons. Blouses were reduced to the strips of tangled string, the jeans to bands of frayed denim. Her face remained calm, but there were smudgy black tears running down her cheeks. It all struck Rylan as theatrical. She possessed dozens of additional outfits, but then she went again into the closet and came out with her jewelry box, which she carried to the window and set on the floor. After unlatching and opening the window, she hurled the jewelry box outside. She pulled the TV off its stand, and it crashed on the floor with a snap and a spark. She left the bedroom again and came back carrying the Wi-Fi modem. Her arm drew back, and the modem sailed into the wall. It broke into several hunks of plastic and left a small dent. Turning to Rylan, her eyes streaming, she screamed, I don't care about any of it. I don't want any of it. She sat down on the floor and sobbed. Rylan's eyes moved again to the Chandler Estridge novels on the bookshelf, which she had left untouched. He rejected the impulses to call attention to this. He got off the bed and went to her, kneeling beside her amid the mess on the floor. She at first flinched from his touch like a small, frightened animal, but then she folded into him. She wrapped her arms around him and wept into his chest. He stroked her hair. "What do you want?" he whispered. She murmured something unintelligible against his skin. He gently drew away from her and wiped sooty tears from her face with the backs of his fingers. "Tell me what you want," he said. Her eyes shifted away. They fixed on something distant and unseen. "I want to belong to someone," she said. "I've never belonged to anyone." Rowling could think of nothing to say to that. He could only hold her. So they're going to need massive luck to kill my Gastrodon. They're going to need pretty much a ton of crits with Hurricane, or a ton of confusion damage with Hurricane. The only concern I have right now for my Gastrodon is the fact that my Gastrodon is my reliable switch into Earth Power from Enamorus, but that's going to waste some of my recovers that I want to save for Zapdos. And the reason you see me using Earth Power when Zapdos is out is because I am anticipating a Roost, which they have a motive to use against my Gastrodon, because that burn is chipping them down by 6% each turn. Their idealized time to use Roost is against my other Pokemon. So now you see they're down to 24%. So they likely have to use Roost. They have to find an opportunity to use Roost. I don't know why they're continuing to use Discharge, considering it's gradually getting them lower and lower. Now, the case is they have to find an opportunity to get in while I'm not using an attack. A single attack onto that Zapdos and they are donezo. However, Zapdos is faster than my entire team. So, say if I switch into Empoleon here, they can simply use Roost and it's going to heal much more than my Flash Cannon will do. However, Moonblast is pretty lethal, as you can see it did around 45% to my Zapdos, which is a net 7% if I switch out immediately, likely into my Toxapex or my Empoleon, but probably my Toxapex because of Regenerator. They are a Scarfed Enamorus, so they are locked into using a move that is going to be not very effective. Okay, there is me being a dumbass. I stayed in my Empoleon. I was looking at the damage of a crit Earth Power, and I saw crit Earth Power doesn't kill. I'm probably fine. But I didn't remember that pretty much all Enamoruses are running Superpower. What that means now is that I can no longer use Stealth Rocks, which is going to make this game a lot harder to win. Sometimes I give myself the creeps. Sometimes my mind plays tricks on me. It all keeps adding up. I think I'm cracking up. Am I just paranoid, or am I just stoned? I went to a shrink to analyze my dreams. She said, I don't know why they're continuing to play here, because they haven't really been doing shit with any of their mons. Their Zapdos is, on death's door, and by death's door I mean becoming useless door. Same way as their Gyarados hasn't been used since my Greninja is dead. For obvious reasons, they don't have infinite recovery in the way that Gastrodon does, or basically how Corviknight does. So my Gastrodon is once again chipped. I risked a Hurricane crit I risked a Hurricane crit right there, but I wasn't the most concerned about a Hurricane crit because they are at 5 discharges, and 1 Hurricane, 5 discharges is clearly not enough to kill my entire team, even if I lose my Gastrodon. However, of course, with like 3 crits, I probably would have lost there. And my opponent after the game did, say, damn, you're risking a lot of crits, but I risked like 3 crits across this whole game, I would say. I'm not counting though. Initially I was considering including a counter across this, but commentary is hard enough to do, kind of, so I decided against it. Lucky for my Gastrodon is now impossible to kill without a bunch of Earthquake crits from an Amoris. That being, what I mean by that is that Zapdos has no way of killing my Gastrodon, presuming they get even a crit and a confusion against my Gastrodon with their 1 Hurricane PP left. I will simply switch out into my Toxapex, and my Toxapex would be fine against a crit discharge, meaning I can just switch back in my Gastrodon, use Recover, and I cannot be touched by Zapdos anymore. Alright, and that is a tie. They realized they cannot win the game, and I knew for a fact I couldn't win the game either. I proposed a tie around 150 turns either because I was thinking, I'm not going to choke. Of course, that was before I choked with my Empoleon, but Empoleon wasn't the most significant in the game in the first place. Thank you for watching. Now, for my analysis of the game. Lessons. This is presuming no team changes because I'm assuming we're both locked in. If they didn't want to add knockoff Gliscor because of 4-move syndrome, then that's on them. Alomomola. Let him get toxic by Gliscor immediately. This won't be difficult if you start baying it out. This may seem counterintuitive, but being toxic is preferable to getting paralyzed by Zapdos discharge later in the game. By the laws of probability, you will get Parahexed at one important turn in the game. It's much more important to have Flip Turn, Protect, and Wish open at the cost of poison damage. Obviously, this will hurt while you are PP stalling Zapdos, but it should be worth it in the long run. Getting him toxic early is only so that they don't realize how beneficial Parahex is. Notably, they have literally nothing besides Zapdos that can kill Alomomola unless he's alone. As such, Zapdos will eventually be in against him in the first place. Also, don't waste wishes on protecting Greninja. They have Dragon Tail and Whirlwind. Greninja's gonna die either way. Gastrodon, watch for Hurricane Confusion damage. In total, stop risking crits. A beneficial way for me to help this is to keep my Dozo and Empoleon at full health. There is absolutely no reason to use them past getting rocks up, which you won't even be able to do reliably until extremely late into the game, if at all.
Hey, you guys are watching Bird Up, the worst show on television.